going to be showing you how to make a Tic Tac Toe game in Python. This is going to be a beginner's level tutorial, so if you don't have any understanding of Python, or if you've never even really coded before, you can just follow along and make a Tic Tac Toe game. We're going to be touching a few topics like scope. There's obviously going to be a lot of syntax that you're going to need to understand, or that we're going to go through, but you're not going to have to understand it in order to get through this. I'm going to explain some of it, not all of it. So yeah, this will be a good beginner's tutorial to learn a few things and make a fun little game. So let's get started. So first things first, this is just kind of some advice going through any tutorial on how to do any coding or almost anything. When the person tells you like, here's what you're going to do, or how do you do something, it would often be good to try and answer the question before the instructor or before the person on the tutorial. So if I was to say, so what we're going to do is make a tic-tac-toe game, and first we're going to need to make the components, you might want to pause the video and think, okay, what are the components? So let's do that now. Let's think of, in a tic-tac-toe game, what are all the components you need for a tic-tac-toe game? You can pause it however long you want, and you could even just go like right here in your terminal and write down all the components you're gonna like want a board or something, maybe like a player, or just like you could write down whatever you want, whatever you think. Yeah, so basically just try and visualize all the components you're gonna need for this game. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Well, first thing we're gonna need is we're gonna need some global variables. Global variables. Second thing we're gonna need, another thing we're gonna need is, I guess that's a little. We'll get to that later. So first thing we're gonna need to make our tic-tac-toe game is we're gonna need a board, right? So we're gonna want to print game board, right? Then the second thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take player input, right? So like we're going to put the board down there, the player is going to say where they want to go, and then after the player says where they want it to go, we're going to check to see if they won or not. Check for a win or a tie. And then what we're going to do after that is we're going to switch players. So we're going to, in our case, we're going to switch from you, the player, to the computer. Switch players. And then the computer's going to move. Computer moves. And then we're going to also, again, check for win or tie. And then this is our game. If we can program these things to happen, I know that this is just overview, but if we can find a way to program this stuff, we'll have our game. And then essentially all we have to do is loop through this loop all the way through, and we'll be able to play our game through. So let's go ahead and do this. We can start with printing the game board, and to do this, to print our game board, we can make a function. We can define the function print board, and we're going to pass in a board variable. So yeah, this is another thing. So we're gonna have a few variables that are just global variables that we're just gonna put up here. So one of them is gonna be the board. So let's make the board real quick. That's just gonna be we're just gonna make that be a bunch of dashes, which right now, what's that? which right now that's fine for it to be a bunch of dashes because that's just going to be the blank board. So just go ahead and enter that in. It's just going to be dash there, comma, dash, and then I'm just going to copy and paste this. So if you can kind of visualize that, we have our top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right, and all of our things in between. And there's our board. And you can kind of visualize this a little bit easier by looking at it like this. Really, what the computer sees is this. They just see a list of all the computer sees is the list being looking like one, slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, slot 4, slot 5, slot 6, 7, 8, and 9, right? So that's what the computer sees. The reason why we're doing it different is so that is because we're humans. We want to be able to see it differently, if that makes sense. So there's the board. Now we're going to go ahead and finish our function to print the game board. So now that we have the board defined, we can pass in this blank board, and when we call this print board function, we can say we want it to print board, but on the first, this 0 is referencing this here. This 0. We're going to print that, and then we're also going to put a line right there in between it. And what that's doing is just putting horizontal or vertical lines in between all of the board sections. So yeah, let me just go ahead and type this in. Another horizontal line. Board 0, 1, and 2. And if you're wondering why we started on 0, that's just how Python is. Certain languages start on 1, certain languages start on 0. Python starts on 0. Okay, so then I'm just going to copy and paste this. Don't forget this plus sign. There we go. So what we just barely did here was we said when we call this print board function, we're going to print the first section, and then we're going to put this line in between it, second section, line in between it, third section. So essentially all it did was we had this board of blank stuff, and then putting lines in between it. So if we run that, we'll be able to see what our board looks like. Oh, we didn't call it yet, so let's go ahead and call print board. Let's see if that. Yeah. So here is what our board looks like. Ignore all this other stuff, but here's what our board looks like. So these dashes right here are these dashes, and these dashes right here is this dash right here. So now it looks pretty good. I think that for some reason there's weird spacing when it comes to this. For some reason there's space here, so I'm gonna make these the same. Go. Yeah, see, that looks better. So now it's even. So now what is that missing? It needs the horizontal line. So we're just gonna go ahead and print that here, and we can just make that this line here. Then you can just copy and paste that, because we're only going to need 2 of these. Let's see how that looks. Okay, I'm going to shave off 2 of each. Cool. That looks good. That looks like a good board. I know that's not exactly how the Tic Tac Toe board looks, but if you're a little bit confused, these lines, these are not actually the borders of the. These are actually these are blank spaces. Think of these ones as blank spaces. So these ones are blank. These ones are the borders. So blank, border, border. All right. So now we have our board and we have our blank spots. The next thing we're going to want to do is take our user input. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. We're going to just make another function of defining we're going to define player input. And for the player input, we're going to take in the board. So input. This is just going to be so you're the player, and you're going to be inputting a number from inputting a number from 1 to 9, right? So input, and we can say like a little message here, enter a number 1 to 9. So like if you wanted your friend to play this or something. So if you're confused on what just really happened here, basically input, this is kind of like a function in Python where basically so this input right here, basically we made this variable called input. We could name this whatever we want. We could name this X, we could name this G, we could name this just variable. This is just random variable, but we're gonna name it input, or we could even name it player input, but that's the name of our function, so we're just gonna name it input. And basically what just really happened here was whenever you say input and then this here, it's whatever the input from the person. So here, I'll just show you. Hold on. Let's see. Input. So, real quick, let's just hurry and put the boundary. Then I'll explain this after. So yeah. So if the player inputs a number from 1 to 9, then first we've got to make sure and check that it's actually a valid number, right? So to do that, what we're going to do is the board input -1. Let's think. Yeah. So sorry, 1 second. Input that. Okay, so what we can say is if the input, which is this variable here, is greater than or equal to 1, and input is less than or equal to 9, and board input -1 equals 1, or no, blank space, then it's good. Then what we're going to go ahead and do is we can set the input that the player put into as the slot that they chose. So basically, if it's valid, we're going to go ahead and put their entry into their spot. So what we just barely did here was we asked the player for input from a value from 1 through 9, and then we need to make sure that it is valid. So we said if the input that the player gave was greater than 1 and less than 9, which is what it needs to be, and the input number that it gave us on the board was a blank slot, then we're going to go ahead and change that slot from the board. That's what that's saying. Okay, but we're going to say else if it's not valid, then we're going to say to the person, oops, can't go there, bud. Or can't go there, try again. Okay, so basically I'll show you. I can probably show you. I think it'll work now. So for some reason it's not asking for my player input. Let's think. I think I need to call it. Yeah, I'm gonna need to call it. Yeah, so we're gonna make a, if we want to test, which is a really good practice to test test your project while you're going through it. What we can do is we're gonna make a while check for winter time. We're just gonna say while game running, and then we're kind of just gonna say this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna print the board, and then we're gonna get the player input. So if you're a little bit confused on what this is, basically we made those functions up here. We made this print board and then player input, and now we're just calling them to run here. So we're gonna run here. It's gonna crash. Just kidding. Let's see. This is the problem here. Current player. We need to define current player. I'm gonna make that a global variable. So here we're just gonna say make a global variable of current player, and we're just gonna set that equal to capital X. And while we're here, we're just gonna we're also gonna say game running, and we're gonna set that equal to true. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, I think that worked. Yeah, so this is where we're at here. Cool. So basically we have the board, we printed the board, and then we are going to take the input and we ask the player for input 1 through 9, and now we're gonna say, okay, we're gonna choose 1, enter, boom, and we got our X there. Now we can choose 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So obviously that's not Tic Tac Toe. We were just able to fill up the whole board all by themselves with no opponent. But now we're gonna go ahead and click 1 again and see what happens. Oops, can't go there. Try again, because it's not empty. But now we're gonna try and do 11, and it's gonna say, oops, can't go there. Try again. Okay, cool. So it looks like this function is working just like we need it to. So we're going to go ahead, and now we're going to go to the next portion, which is check for win or tie. And this one's going to be the longest, but it's going to be pretty simple, which all we're going to do is be checking for wins or ties. So first, we're going to check for a horizontal win, and we're going to be passing in the board. And the way we're going to do that, this is so we also need a variable of the winner. So it's because we need to check for a winner tie, we're going to make a global variable of winner. So we're just going to make a variable of winner. We're going to set that equal to none, because when the game starts, there's no winner at the very beginning. But as we're checking for a winner tie, if there's a win, we're going to set the winner to win. So okay, so check for horizontal. What we're going to do is, first we're going to pass in our global winner variable, and then we're going to say if the board at this position equals the board at here, and it also equals the board at here, and the board at 1 does not equal blank, meaning someone went there. So basically, if the full top row is the same, and it being the same is not all blank, then whatever's in that top row is the winner. The winner is the person in that row. Sorry, I keep spelling it wrong. Board. Okay, and then we're going to return true. Cool. So then we can just go ahead and copy this, and then we're going to just hit it with an LF, and then Control V, and then we can just take from the top row to the second row. So the second row is going to start on 3, 4, and then 5, and then we're going to just say 3 here, and the winner is whatever's on 3, and then 3. Same thing, there's another horizontal row, which is the bottom row. Else if 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and if the board at 6 is not blank, then the person that went at 6 is the winner. Nice. So those are all the ones at horizontally. Now we're going to go ahead and check for rows, which is vertical. Okay, define check row. We're going to pass in the board. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and give it that global winner variable to use. Then we're going to say if the board, same concept, if the board at 0 equals the board at 3, which is the space directly under the top left, so the middle left, and that one equals the board at 0, 1, 2, 3, 6, then and the board at 0 does not equal a blank, then what we're going to do is we're going to set the winner equal to whoever went in that spot and return true. Nice. And then we can just go ahead and copy this. Copy. And then else if. Same thing, but we're just going to say for 1, upgrade all these by 1. So 4 and 7. And this is 1. And the winner is whoever went at 1. Same thing. Else if. Boom. Upgrade this by 2. 5, 8, and 8. Whoever went at 2 wins. 0, 1, 2, 3, 5. Yeah. Yep. That's right. Hold on, let me hurry and double check. Row. So for the last row, it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. First row, 0, 3, 6, 0, 1, 4, 7. Yep. So these look like all the right rows. Now we're going to want to do it for diagonal. So this one is just same concept. Check, define, check, diag. Hold on, check, diag. No. Check diagonal. Okay, we're going to go ahead and pass in the board. We're going to give it that global winner variable. Global winner. Basically, that's just giving it the scope that it needs to be into this program. And then we're going to say if the board at 0 equals the board at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which also equals the board at 8, then and the board at 0 does not equal blank, then what we do is whoever the winner equals whoever went to in that slot at board 0 and return true. No, not timer over. Return true. Else if, same thing here. Just copy and paste this. But this is for 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6. Whoever went to 0, 1, 2 is the winner. Cool. So those are all the checks for possibilities for winning, which basically, to reiterate what we just did, was we checked for win or tie. Oh, we need to check for tie. Let's hurry and do that. So define, check, tie. Pass in the board. Global winner. Pass in that global variable. If the board at 0 equals the board at, so the way we're gonna hold on, I'm doing this wrong. Check for tie. First I was gonna be like if they all are the same. So we could, so since this is a list, like I was saying earlier, where it's really just like that, it's just one long list, then what we can do is say if this is not in that list, how would you do that? Not in board? Yeah, not in board. Yeah, if this is not on the board because it was replaced by X's and O's, then what we want to do is we're going to want to print the board. Print board. Sorry, caps lock. Print board. And then we want to print draw, so we could tell the person that it was a draw. basically it's not like, yeah. So the check is if it's empty, or if it's full, if the game board is full, then we're just going to show them the board, and we're going to say draw, and then we're going to say the game's no longer running. And that's how we check if it's a tie. Cool. So yeah, like I was saying, real quick, we got to make sure we check for a win. That would not be fun if you couldn't win this game, huh? So how do we make sure we check for a win? Well, I thought we already. Did we not already check for win? Right here we're checking for win or tie. What we gotta do? Check win. Okay. Let me think. If the diagonal or the horizontal or the row oh yeah, so this is basically just okay, yeah. So we can add this here for if check diagonal or check horizontal or check row, and we're going to pass in the board to all of these so that we can call them. If all of these, then print. If this is just a faster F string, F the winner is curly brackets winner, whoever the winner was set to. Okay, so what this is here, this is not you don't need to have this. Actually, yeah, you need to have this to tell the person. So without this, if you didn't have this, then the computer would know who the winner is. The winner variable would be set to whatever it was. But with this, then what it's saying is if the check diagonal is true, like so, if this is true, or this is true, or this is true, then print the winner is whoever the winner is. So that the viewer, you, can know who the winner is. Okay, cool. So what we did to sum all this up, I know that was a pretty long section. All we did was check for win or tie. We checked the horizontal, the row, the diagonal win for any case. Now we are going to go to the next part, which is switch players. So yeah, basically, here we have our checks. Now we're going to switch players. So switch players. So we're going to define this function as switch player current. Oh yeah, then we're going to pass in our global for our current player, which we have that up here. Current player is X. Okay, so if the current player equals X, then what we're going to do is we're going to set the current player equal to O. That's all. That's all it is when we call switch player. So basically, once we get to our the point where we want to switch our player, then that's all it's going to do. But else, the current player equals X. So basically, if the current player was already 0, we just put it back to X. Okay, cool. So that one's done. Then we'll move on to computer moves. Yeah, so for the computer moves, we're going to define computer, the computer. We're going to pass in the board for it, and so we're going to say while the current player is equal to 0, which means while it's the computer's turn, then we're going to say the position is equal to random dot rand int, which this is random integer from 0 to 8. And so basically what we're going to do, so basically what this function is going to do is the computer move, all it's going to do is pass in a random number from 0 to 8. So when we call this computer function, we're going to say while it's the computer's turn, then we're going to set the position. We're just making this variable position. We're going to say a random number from 0 to 8, and this is not clarified. So random, all we need to do is first import random. We're just going to do that right here. Import random. Import random, yeah. So that's just the random class. Okay, and then so the position, we're just going to say the position is that, and then we're going to say if the board at that position, which the computer chose, which is just the random number, is equal to a blank, then we're going to set that board position equal to the computer's 0. And then we're going to switch, we're going to call switch player. Cool. So yeah, what this does is when we call the computer function, we're going to say wow. So basically we're checking if it's the computer's turn, and then we're going to say, okay, if it is the computer's turn, then we're going to get a random number from 0 to 8, and we're going to put it into the position, into this position variable. And then if the board at this position is blank, then we're going to make the board at that position into a 0. And then we're going to go to 0. We should probably say if it's not blank, maybe that it already checked for that. Maybe our thing already checked for that. So okay, now we're just gonna do I think that's everything. Check for winner, and then we want to check for winner tie. That was from our overview. Okay, so now that we have all of our functions made of the overview for what we want our game to be able to do, now we're just going to say, okay, how do we want to call these? Basically, we're going to draw our overview through our functions. So what we want to be doing is we want to print our board, okay, and then we want to take the player input, and then we want to check for a win, right? And then we want to check for a tie, right? Because check for a win or tie, really. And then we're going to switch player. And then the computer's going to go. And then we're going to check for a win. And then we're going to check for tie. And that's all. It's just going to loop. Capitalized and spelled wrong. Okay. So yeah, that's our game. Let's run this and hopefully it works. Okay, so here's our board. For some reason it's printing twice. Not exactly sure why, but okay, let's see if we can play. So let's play one. So I went here, and because the computers are so much smarter and better than humans, the computer just went instantly. So I went zoom, the computer just went instantly here. So cool, it's working. So I went, then the computer went, and then now it's back to my turn. I'm going to choose 2. Boom, computer, I went here, computer went here, and like, oh, since I go before the computer, I'm going to win by choosing 3. Boom. It looks like it says the winner is none, and the computer went here. So there's something going wrong here. That's our check for win. Our check for win is not working correctly. So let's try and fix that real quick. Check for win. So 0. Horizontal 0, 1, 2. Winner equals board at 1, 2. Yes. So then we're winner. Diagonal. I have a feeling that my spelling is messing with some things. Check tie. Okay, check win. If diagonal or this, then print this. Print the winner is winner. Yeah, it looks like that should have won. Let's see. So 1, 2, 3. The winner is none. So let's see. Winner none. Let's just find capital winner. Winner. Is it gonna matter if it's capital or not? Let's just change all to not capitals, just to make sure. Maybe that's part of the problem. Let's change all that. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. I don't know if that's the problem, but let's see. Let's see if that was the problem. 3. Winners X. Yeah, so I guess that was the problem. That some of my winners had capitals and not capitals. So, so I won. It tells me that I won, but then after I win, the computer still goes. I'm not sure if that's an easy fix. Let me try and see if that's an easy fix real quick. Winner is this? Check win. Winner is this? And can't we just say game stop? Then we can also just say game running equals false. Let's see if that does it. 1, 2, 3. Huh. Okay, well, I'm probably not going to fix that one here, but I can look into it later. So, yep, that's our game. We're going to play it one more time. 1, 2, 3, and we win. Winner is X. Awesome. So that's everything. I know I kind of just explained a few things and overlooked a few of the other things, but yeah, I'm going to try and put a pretty good description on this, and yeah, that's everything. Thank you.